co-host extraordinaire, Stacey.
Stop. Hey, how do you want us to install this water heater? And my coworker was like, I don't know, install the water heater. Like, why are you even asking me? He's like, well, I don't know if you know, but what you designed, it can't physically fit through the front door of this building.
My class is only 40 minutes. So we have to get this done in 40 minutes. You have to clean up in 40 minutes. And then it also, when you use the miter saw, a lot of kids are scared of the miter saw, and you just see the difference in their confidence when they come in here compared to when they leave. They're excited.
Be announcing a new county that's going to join us in Maryland, so we continue to spread it. And I'll say my peers across the country are starting to take this and adopt this at their local IEC chapters.
Either AI assistant tools, you have AI master builder tools, and then you have kind of a bit of both that are 1 foot in BIM, in current processes, and 1 foot in AI.
Said, Brett, in life, opportunity meets you at your level of preparation.
She said, here's the keys, go forth and do great things.
Good morning. It is morning huddle time. Stacey, how are you today? This is Chad Prinky. Sorry, Chad Prinky here this morning with Stacey Holson.
Sounds good. That microphone.
That's really, I got a little thrown off this morning because I'm kind of geeking out on this new mic.
Playing with your new toy.
Yeah, it's so cool. I really like it. Eric's got a cool toy too. I was really glad this morning when I'm setting this up too, because I was like, oh no, we're going to have a guest that's got a way cooler microphone than me.
That's okay.
And it may be cooler. I'm not sure because I'm not a microphone expert, but Eric's microphone does look pretty damn good.
I think we have the same brand.
Is it that it's the Shure thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
I will say that I've been using these mics now for well over a year, probably a year and a half ago. But I mean, I can tell you that when I first started out doing content online, the guy who used to edit my content, he would complain about my mics and the sound. And he was like over in like somewhere in Western Europe. And he didn't speak English, but he would rate my sound quality from like good to like pull my eyeballs out. And so I always get pull my eyeballs out red from so I learned to change mics really quickly.
That's good. It's good. I mean, it's so all right, here's a little known fact. Stacey, you might know this. I don't even know if you know this. So from 1999 to 2007, I was the singer of a rock band. Facts.
Nice.
What was it called?
Let's not go there. It was called Quarry, Quarry, and our stuff, I believe, is still on iTunes. It used to be. I don't know if it still is, but it was awesome, a lot of fun. So I know a little bit more about microphones, but not the studio mics. I just show up at the studio and cut the album. I didn't do anything with the microphone, but those stage mics, man, I know an SM57 and an SM58 pretty damn well.
All right.
Can you give us a little taste of your past songs?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I wanted to. This is an interesting icebreaker. This whole experience has been an interesting icebreaker. Let's stack on top of it. So right before we were about to go live, Stacey says to Eric about putting a chip in someone's brain, and then they did this yesterday. I said, well, you're going to have to update me on the news. So if you're not familiar. We'll update you on the news here live. Stacey's going to bring us a live news. Breaking news. Breaking news.
For some context, Eric was saying he wasn't feeling good and his throat was all scratchy, but his brain was still working. And I said, is that because you got that new chip installed?
So what happened? What's this chip?
So Elon Musk, I guess, got it into someone yesterday, and I don't know how successful it is, but I think it's for people with immobility, and that's what they're shooting towards. But it's scary, I think.
So we're currently at the help people to enjoy better lives who are challenged in some way stage. We're not in the superhuman stage.
No.
I think that we are in a superhuman stage because And just for the record, while you were in your rock band, I was studying engineering. So you were out having a good time, and I was supplanted like in a bunch of books, right? So I was figuring out every which way to do calculus through statistics and everything else.
Nerds, Eric.
I know. I promise you. That's why I tried to quit engineering after the fact. They wouldn't let me. But the fact is, we've been already helping enhance people's mobility through robotic components in their parts. So we've already been doing that part.
Yeah.
So this is taking it to the next level.
It's a new exciting world, and also a little scary.
But Stacy, if they help us to live to 130 or 50, you don't want it?
No, I don't need to live that long.
Yeah. That's that old school Pennsylvania answer. I love that.
I like that. He's like, nah, I'm good.
So my grandma's 96. I was up there visiting with my grandma a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "Oh, how are you?" And she looks great, and she's all the way with it. She looks me right in the eye. She squares me up as I'm leaving, and she goes, "Chad, this is too old." That's what she said. She goes, "This is too old. Don't do it." And I was like, I get it.
That's funny. My mom is 80 and my dad's 83. And so she's concerned all her friends are dead. So no one's going to come to her funeral.
Yeah.
Think about that. You're wondering who's going to come to your funeral. I don't have those thoughts in my mind, Chad.
No, I get it. Hey, Eric, it's there's you can you only have the present. Am I right?
Right. Yes.
You have the present. That's all we got. So let's use that present right now. I want to today we're going to talk about government contracting. We're going to talk about that with Eric, who you can tell is a very dynamic, fun guy. And I really loved the conversation that led up to this, and looking forward to getting into it today. So I want to frame this up a little bit for our audience. When I was talking about government contracting, I asked Eric, right out of the gate, kind of a question that I think will help to answer maybe some people's questions coming in. Are you talking about federal government, state government, local government, municipalities? What kind of government contracting are we talking about in here?
Yeah, so today I want to focus on the federal government. We can address issues and questions as it relates to state and local municipal government. However, I primarily teach federal government contracting, and there's a reason for that, and we can get into that. But primarily, we're discussing federal contracting.
All right, cool. So Eric is the founder of GovCon Giants, and he really partners with companies who are trying to make it happen in the federal contracting space. And he has an awesome YouTube channel. I want you to check that out. I'll pop this all up on the screen here. GovCon Giants, and then YouTube eCoffee. He's got a following, and obviously, I think the microphone may have helped with the following. But what is the difference between working for the federal government and state and local governments? What is the fundamental difference?
So there's a lot of differences. I actually made a video specifically just addressing that, because there's some major ones. But I would say the fundamental difference for me is that, one, the federal government, regardless of what state you're in, if you're working on a federal facility, the majority of federal agencies follow the same set of rules and laws. So if you learn that set of rules and laws one time, you can take that to your state, your respective states, and operate. With the exception of a few agencies like the FAA, they have their own rule book. But for the most part, 98% of the majority of all federal agencies follows the FAR, right? And so for me, that makes it really easy to, once I learn that one set of rules, then I can comply. Now, clearly they're complicated and there's things, but it's when you, like, for example, I live in Palm Beach County. I'm from Miami. When you look at Miami-Dade County, you look at Broward County, there's 35 municipalities. They all do things differently, right? So one clear example for people who don't understand what that means. If you look at, for example, let's say abortion, right? How that state by state, that differs. That's the same thing with contracting. So that's something that people can visualize in their brain, right? That's an issue.
Yeah. And the first time we've ever talked abortion on this show. That's yeah.
That's different. Because people say, well, how's it? Well, look at abortion. That's an issue that differs from state to state. So construction is the same way, and contracting is very much the same way. And then when you get into municipalities, it differs.
Right. Imagine it varying from city to city, from town to town, from county to county.
If you cross over one line, like you go a mile, and it's a different set of rules. You go 2 miles, it's a different game. And let me give you, since we're talking about construction here, let me tell you why that matters, right? Because for me, as a construction contractor, I'm licensed in the state of Florida to be a general contractor. However, when I work on federal facilities, you are not required to have a general contractor's license. So imagine this, the state requires me to have a license to do construction for municipalities and for cities and for the state. But when I go on a federal facility, they don't require me to have a general contractor's license.
Fascinating.
Think about that. That's a huge distinction, Stacey. Think about that, right? That's something that just blows people like, wait. I said, no, because at the federal level, you don't pull permits to do the construction work.
Okay, got it.
Okay, right.
That follows. So, I get that.
Yeah. So you have a license so you can pull permits to start doing construction. Now, there are some exceptions, right? We can get into nuances because someone listening say, well, if you're doing underground, yes, if you're going to do some underground work, we're going to tie into like a city facility, then yes, you got to pull a permit because you're digging under the pipes, you tie into the city's municipal lines. But when we're erecting a building, I don't pull permits on federal grounds. I built hangars before. We pull 0 permits.
Yeah,
someone who's new to contracting with the government, construction particularly, they come out there and like that's not part of your proposal. That's not part of your submissions because all of their stuff, for example, have you heard of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers?
Of course. Yep.
They're the ones that do all your inspections.
Yeah.
So there is no permitting requirements with them. So they come out, they are the ones that write the scopes. They determine qualifications. And then when you start working on it, you call them and they do inspections. But there is no local municipal permitting required. So your license means nothing to the federal government.
Got it. All right, cool. And so if I'm a contractor and I've been, I know a lot of very successful, sizable, mid-size, even large contractors that we work with, from a consulting capacity. And I will frequently get into this topic of like, all right, as we look out for the next 3 years and you consider all the different sectors that you want to be doing business in. Currently, you're in multifamily and you're in retail and you've got colleges and universities. We should look into expanding into I don't even get the word out of my mouth. And they're like, government, nope, we're not interested. And so what would you say to the people who have that gut reaction?
So whenever that I've heard people say that, normally it's because of a story that someone told them. It's like a folk tale.
Right. Yeah, it is passed down through the generation.
Yeah. People pass down these folk tales. Right. It's funny because surprisingly, people tell me things like, oh, these are all minority contracts. We don't qualify. I said, well, why is it that the biggest companies in the world do it?
Yeah. Interesting.
It makes the logic, is that the math doesn't math. So it's like, oh, no. What you hear on TV, right, that they project are minority contracts. By the way, I want to clarify something. At the federal level, there is no such thing as minority contracts.
What?
It doesn't exist. The word minority is not used in any context. They're small business contracts.
Interesting.
So it's for small businesses.
Yeah.
Right. So there's veteran contracts, there's opportunities for women, but there are no such, there's socioeconomic in terms of like, you can't be rich, right? But there are no such thing. So again, now at the state and local levels, there are, right? But at the federal level, there's small business contracts. So again, these are old folk tales that I'm not saying in the past, these things didn't exist. But again, if you are like some of the people who are doing commercial, some of the mid and large businesses, those people are older. Right. And so in their days when they started, those things existed, right? Back in the 90s and the 80s, some of these things existed. I wasn't around. I've read about them as well. Right. But those things have been long gone in the Bush era. right? So they got away with that stuff at the federal level back in like the Bush eras.
Interesting. So I'm sorry.
Right. See, what'd you say?
I didn't know that. I thought there was
not. People assume these things because people make a lot of assumptions. Oh, they do zero research and that's why I said they're folk tales, right? That keep carried along. Because I hear these are what people tell me all the time. And I said, they go, oh, those are all minority contracts. I said, really? I said, I've never seen a minority federal contract since I've been doing this. And I've been doing it since 2007.
It's the you use that term assumptions. I think we, as humans, we all do it. We make this, right? Our brain creates shortcuts to keep us from having to think about things that we've already made our mind up about, right? Like, right. It's kind of, it's like when my 10-year-old or your 11-year-old is like, no, Dad, I don't like mushrooms. And I'm like, well, the last time you did that, you were 4. You don't know. Like, you have no idea anymore. And it's time to refresh that. It's time to refresh your understanding and get a new data point. Which we did and confirmed he does not like mushrooms. But there's I think your message would be slow down, do some research, dig into it, don't make assumptions.
Right.
And that's maybe where you come in, right? Like
absolutely.
Talk a little bit about what you do for contractors, and specifically talk about the construction community.
So one of the things that the reason why I do what I do, because I find that, so I never served. I never went to the military just because people always ask that question. But I feel like this is my service. Our government needs us. They need more industrial base. We've lost our industrial base. We need better quality companies servicing our government. We always talk about, right? Like, where's our taxpayer money going, right? And we all claim that we're concerned, but if you're choosing not to do business with the government, you're part of the problem, right? If you've got a great quality company, you're doing excellent work, and you have shown that you can compete in the private world, I feel like it's your obligation to come and support our government, because one of the things that's happened over the last 2 decades, our industrial base has shrank. So the last 2 decades, we went from 120,000 small businesses supporting our government to 65,000 supporting our government. And no one has an answer for that.
Wow.
And so we don't see that as a huge risk. I do. We saw it during the pandemic. What happened when we relied on other countries for our goods and services. And so I tell people that the government doesn't get the best people. They get the best people that come to them. And so if you choose to stay away and not support, you're part of the problem.
Well, and you just heard what I said, which is I work with lots of really great companies, mid-sized and even large companies who have made that decision. I have never taken the guilt approach, Eric, but I'm going to try now, I really do think there's validity to what you're saying. It's kind of like not voting. It's kind of like it's not participating in our structures.
Right.
And okay, if you've gone in there, you've looked at it, you've spent time researching, talking to people and evaluating it, and come out with a well-informed decision that you're not a good fit for it.
I agree. I'm okay with that.
Right. Yeah.
But we cannot. But because I'm so ingrained in it, to the point where these federal agencies know me, and I go to the conferences, I go to events. I'm exhibiting an event next week for the largest small business contracting event in the country. When I go there, I meet federal agencies. They regularly complain they can't get contractors to support their missions. This is a huge complaint. So when we see that Boeing and Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and all these people are basically overcharging the government, we hear about these $500 toilets and $2,000 screws. Well, nobody else is bidding. Right. So what do you want them to do? What do you want? So when we talk about the government and we look at the biggest budget item is Department of Defense, and we look at the amount of wasteful spending, right? We talk about fraud, waste, and abuse. The government can only be blamed so much. There's only so much they can do. They're human beings. They might make $80,000, $90,000 a year, right? So what I found when I looked at, for example, and again, I'm a construction guy, when I looked at state projects for affordable housing, the government people did not weren't the ones that caught the cheats. It were other contractors that were catching the cheats.
Yeah.
And they were the ones catching each other and helping to keep the things balancing in check. It wasn't the state of Florida doing that. They didn't have the bandwidth. It was other competing companies. So if we are not the competing companies that are offering up alternatives to help the Corps of Engineers better do their job, well, don't complain.
I love it. It's a great message. I want to pause for a moment and talk about a couple of our awesome sponsors who help to make the Morning Huddle construction show a possibility. First, I want to talk about Katz Abosch. Katz Abosch is a really strong accounting and consulting firm in the Mid-Atlantic. They really know construction. Their client base is made up largely of contractors, and the folks that I know who worked with them are extremely thrilled. So reach out to Katz Abosch for accounting support. And then also I want to talk about Lawrence Law. Lawrence Law is a boutique law firm that really caters to the commercial construction community. They work with small to mid-sized contractors for their daily legal needs, as well as the big legal needs that pop up through the course of business. So I wanted to call those two folks out. Thank you for your support. So I want to pivot, Eric, to you talking about what are the opportunities, what are some of the things that contractors can get excited about. So you've hit on this idea that, like, hey man, educate yourself, open up your mind, don't limit yourself through assumptions.
Right.
Start hitting it with some facts here.
Yeah,
what are some opportunities we should be excited about?
Also, chat, don't put the state and local into the same bucket as federal.
Right.
One of the other distinctions I want to make, Stacey, that's really important. And again, as a Miami resident contractor, whenever we have hurricanes and natural disasters, okay, do you guys ever notice that the states raise their hand to declare it a natural disaster site for some reason? Anybody know why they do that?
No.
Why do you declare your state a natural disaster?
Well, because you want federal money.
Right, bingo.
Right.
Because you want federal money. So how is it? So what happens is they get contractors to do work at the state and local level without having the money for it. So then people's monies are tied up until they can declare it a natural site. So then they can get federal dollars. The federal government will not issue a contract unless the funds are already there.
Got it.
So if you've been burned by your local school district or your local cities, it's because they can't have unbalanced budgets. The federal government just prints the money, so you don't have to worry about that. So, hey, listen, I just want, because people say, well, I tried local and I city. That's not the same thing. The city government will happily give you a contract, Chad, and will not have the budget. And they know it. They will say, well, don't worry, we're going to go ask the federal government for it, and then we'll get it, and then we'll pay you later. But right now, we need this project done because it's an earthquake, it's a firestorm, it's a hurricane.
Yeah,
so
it probably works out way more often than it doesn't work out. But
sometimes, my friends, we've been on the hook for 6 months, 8 months. When the pandemic happened, the state of Florida told me they'd pay me in 10 days. I didn't get paid for 5 months. They signed a contract, said they would pay me in 10 days. This is during the pandemic. So, but they can lie to you and deceive you because, unfortunately, that's the kind of things that they have to do to operate, because they can't not pay police officers and firefighters and teachers and all this stuff. The federal government will not issue a contract unless it's fully funded. So that would never happen. So I just want to say that real quick.
Yeah, that's great. Another great data point. So what are some of the opportunities that are coming? I mean, obviously, there's a massive infrastructure bill. That's got to carry. So
let's talk about some opportunities, and let's talk to some of your mid-market clients, right? So when we look at, for example, one of my, we had someone go out this past week in Dallas, Texas. They visited with the Corps of Engineers out there. They said that they only have 2 large contractors and that they have too much work and they can't find more large contractors. They're bringing in brand new planes like F-16 bombers that they have to build the infrastructure to support building the planes. When you go up to like a place like Connecticut and Rhode Island, same thing. There's companies that are winning these ship contracts to build the new submarines. Well, the new submarines are 400 feet longer than the old submarines. So all of the infrastructure to support building them has to be taken down and put back up before they can start building the subs. So we're talking about, not just the streets and roads and stuff like that. We're talking about I built simulator buildings to put a simulator in for the new refueling planes. So if we think about every time we got to build a new helicopter, new planes, new subs, all the infrastructure that's used to support the construction of those planes and boats and stuff needs to be rebuilt. That's a big pot of money that only large companies can do. The small guys can't build a submarine bay. It's got, because you're talking about doing work under the water, right? Extending it out.
Yeah.
So that's not for a little guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
You can't build hangars for the refueling jets. That's not a little person project, right? So we need some of these mid-tier companies, right, coming in that has the bandwidth to be able to, one, bond it, because what we find is that the government's going to require bonding. So yeah, they don't require a license, but you got to put up a bond. Mm-hmm. So that's the way they protect themselves. So they're not silly in a sense where they don't know what they're doing. They've been doing this a long time. I find that they actually do a much better job than the state and locals of getting work done, because they don't always choose the lowest bidder. Unlike most of the municipalities, they try to run you into the ground. So you're not playing that game where you got to be a handyman to make money. Most of my friends that work at the VA hospitals, once you get above 5 million bonding, they find the competition is very thin. So once you start getting into 50 million bonding, you can imagine there's only a handful of people that can do that kind of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, I would say so when you look at it, a lot of people are looking at just infrastructure, like the stuff that they see every day. But think about all of the planes, tanks, subs, all that stuff. The facilities that are used to support building those also are outdated and need to be redone and need to be expanded. So there's all that opportunity that, to me, exists for the mid-tier market persons.
Yeah, that's a lot of, I mean, so
we don't think about that, right?
No, we don't.
It's kind of like a second level of projects, but
you think about the massive projects, and then you think about the small business set aside projects, but you tend not to think about this giant pile of mid-market opportunity.
Right. So that's one thing. The second thing that I would say on the innovation front, a lot of the funding that went in the infrastructure bill also went for like clean energy, right? So Department of Energy got a big pile of money. They actually stood up a brand new agency with $6 billion in funding. So it's a startup, a government agency that was stood up last year. It has $6 billion in funding. And so we're looking for things like, for example, low carbon concrete. I've heard that they can't find that anywhere. The companies that do it are few, far, and in between. So if you've got a concrete plant, and you want to know, or the technology exists, but unfortunately, the people that usually own concrete plants, again, they're older, so they're not looking at converting it because they're like, "Hey, we make a bunch of money. We don't need to do anything."
Well, and so this is not being specified commonly all over the place.
It's not, right? Again, this stuff doesn't make the news. And chat, unfortunately, and I promise you, I beg these people, but when you talk to federal agencies, they go, "We don't have a budget to advertise and market all this stuff." So if you're not going to conferences, you're not on their industry day events, you don't really hear about it. And there's so many websites, and it's so scattered that it's hard to publicly publicize it. And so I think I do a good job of that, is basically broadcasting and showcasing the opportunities to the masses as best as I can, right? Given my platform.
I love it. Yeah. I think that's Stacey, what kind of questions do you have, or do we have from the? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm going to see. I was actually going to talk about one of the questions that someone just put in there, Henry Mickelberg.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, it's funny. So he talked about SAMI. So SAMI actually is Society of American Military Engineers. It's actually for anyone who's in construction that wants to do government contracting. It's the best place to be. And so he had a crazy run of U.S. Corps of Engineer work back in UK in the 2000s. So, like you said, once you know the rules of engagement club, there you are, great opportunities. I mean, they literally use the same people. So if you do a good job, they'll keep you around. They won't. I mean, they're just basically feeding you work and unlimited work. I mean, right now there's also huge opportunities, Chad. The Corps of Engineers just stood up a brand new, I guess they call them sub entity called Viper for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. The Virgin Islands, when they had the hurricane, I think it was 8 years ago, they've got probably somewhere $8 to $10 billion in funding. They haven't used $1 of it. They can't even find people to go over and do work.
Wow. I mean, I'll go.
Money's there. It's sitting there, and it's ready to be spent, and they can't get people. I mean, they're so vast. It really, I don't even know, because the people that are in this are swamped with work. And then the rest of the people, again, middle market, we're not talking about small business, because at the small business pot, right, there's a lot of people like looking for really like $10,000, $100,000 projects. When you start getting to the bigger projects that require more bonding, it's just not enough people to help.
Yep.
For the contractors that aren't doing government work now, like, where do they start? What are the steps that they need to take?
So I would say specifically construction, or everyone.
So yeah, specifically construction, and imagine they're currently commercial contractors, and they're not touching any government work. What's
I would say to join SAMI, that group that the guy just mentioned.
Nice. Okay.
So I would
join SAMI.
If you're doing commercial work, right, and you're in construction, there's a SAMI, Society of American Military Engineers, right? I would join. They have local chapters in every state, most cities, and I would join SAMI, and they will start talking to you about the different opportunities that exist. That's the first place I would start.
Love it. That's great.
Okay.
Is the process to get set up and everything in the system, is that also like pretty daunting, or?
No, it's super easy. Okay. Anyone can do it. And literally, Chad, how old's your son?
I have 3 of them, but my oldest is 11.
Oh, he could do it.
I don't doubt that. He's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, Chad, that's not. I didn't want to use a brilliant kid.
Okay, no. All right. Well, my dumb one's 4.
I don't want the brilliant kid. That's not setting. I set the bar too high.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, it's not fair, right? Then the kids, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, of course, it's like he's brilliant."
Of course, the 11-year-old genius can do it. If Doogie Howser can do it,
right? Come on, Chad. That's not what I want.
No, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But an average 11-year-old could do it.
An average kid can do it.
I love it.
And you're saying the competition is not that fierce, right? Because that number
saying that when you get above a certain bonding level, right? So again, it's
right.
The competition is very fierce when you get at the bottom level, right? So at the small business level, it's really fierce, because that's where, most people are playing down there.
That's
right?
where they need and that's where that's the whole intent, is to set aside work for people in that stage of their business who need help. So that's why that business is set aside for those folks. But I totally understand what you're saying, is that once you start to have jobs that have a $50 million, $100 million bond that need to be pulled on them, there's not people who can do that work. And probably the giant contractors, the Bechtels,
they're there. They're killing the world.
They're in there, but are they going after a $100 million project or a $50
they're not.
Million
right. So Bechtels are not correct.
It's too small for them. They don't care. They don't want that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, like you said, you've got Bechtels, you've got Jacobs, and those guys, the big engineering firms, right? Those guys are, but they're that's why I said middle market, right? Those guys are the largest.
It's awesome. We have a question in the chat from Carl. Stacy, can you field that one?
He said, I'm looking to bid an out-of-state construction project, but we don't have experience in the field. Will it be possible to win?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so talk about, you don't have to have experience in the state that you're doing the work. You don't have to have.
Remember, the federal government is not looking at that. It's federal land. See, we keep trying to compare federal to state. So oftentimes, what'll happen, right? When I'll tell people things. So let's say, for example, Stacey, what state are you in?
Maryland.
All right, you're in Maryland. So the majority of our contracts that are won, right, and let's say Rhode Island, come from Maryland. Because it has nothing to do with the local base. Because if you're a local, but you're not registered in the federal system, they can't give you the work anyways.
Right.
Does that make sense, Chad?
Yeah.
So it's irrelevant of where your state you're in. Look what the person, Barbara said, I work for Parsons. Can you touch on a little bit of partnering, medium and small businesses? See what I'm saying? So the large people like Parsons are looking for this kind of stuff.
Yep.
This is what happens is that they're also complaining that they can't find good people. This is what I hear. This is not me saying this. This is what people are saying to me.
You're just bringing bringing it forward and making it public and putting it on a YouTube channel.
Yeah, Google it and look at Congress and industrial base. Just Google this stuff. There's articles about the small business group within small business within the White House talks about this under the last several administrations. This is 2 decades. So how many administrations have we gone through in 2 decades?
So talk about partnering with medium and small businesses. So I get the picture in my mind. You've got a large company like a Parsons. They are looking for partners. Why and how does all that work?
All right, so let's talk about that. So I do have. So Parsons is a really big company. So let's talk about partnering first, right?
Yeah.
So if I were starting out, and I was a middle-sized market company, there are some other organizations that you can partner with that are not quite as big as a Parsons, that are also large, but that are more small business friendly. So sometimes organizations like Parsons, and we'll talk about Parsons because she's coming from the top down. I'm talking to my guys going up, right? Some of us still, we can't afford to wait 3 months, 6 months, right? So sometimes when you get the large businesses, now the government, by the way, on the federal government, if you are the prime contractor, meaning you hold the contract with the government, I've been paid in as fast as 10 days. So that's another myth I wanted to dispel, right? Not like state and local. Federal government on construction projects will pay you 15 days to 30 days. We're talking about progress payments, not your final bill, progress payments.
Yep.
Right. So again, just want to debunk some of the myths out here, Chad. Sometimes, however, if you work for some of the larger businesses, they may hold the money for their own reasons, but the federal government did not hold the money. So I just want to say that to people listening to this, because again, I've heard all the different scenarios people are going to throw at me. Well, no, I worked at this. I go, okay, but were you working directly for the Corps of Engineers, or were you working for, I don't want to use Parsons, let's say Gilbane, right? Because so if you're working for Gilbane, maybe Gilbane held your money because you didn't do something that complied with their regulations, not with the government. Different scenarios, understand?
Yep.
So I would recommend, if I were starting out, to look at working with, first of all, I would say reach out to us because we can help you navigate some of this waters and pick like good and better companies to work with, right? Because they're not all made equal. Because now you're dealing with some of these large businesses that have been known to do some things that are not above board. So let us help you with that. But I would say start off looking at tribal organizations. So tribal organizations within the federal arena are large, right? Many of the Alaska Native tribes do $3 billion a year in aggregate revenue, but by definition, they're still considered small business. Now,
and by the way, when you say they do $300 million a year,
no, $3 billion, $3 billion with a B.
Got it. When you say they do $3 billion a year, I'm in my mind, I'm picturing oil revenues. Is that right, or is that wrong?
That's wrong. They do construction, they do IT, they do infrastructure, they do engineering.
Wow. And they pool their money?
So they actually have, so a tribal entity is a lot like, I don't know, like a CACI or like a SAIC or like a.
Oh, really? Okay, got it.
So they're allowed to create they create an umbrella portfolio of companies underneath them where each one of those subsidiaries is doing a couple $100 million. And so they have 10, 20, 30 subsidiaries.
I had no idea.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, most people don't, right?
Well, that's good business though, man. I like that. Yeah.
Now, the reason why I like them, okay, is because even though they're a $3 billion company, because they have all these different subsidiaries, they still operate like a small business in most parts. So you can still talk to decision makers.
Yeah, you can get to humans.
Like, you got a problem with your money, you can go down there. Like, I'm a practical guy, right? So like, it's not so far removed where you're like trying to reach Jeff Bezos.
Right.
Or Elon Musk. You're not getting Elon Musk.
Or the president or whatever. Like, yeah, you're not getting these people. Yeah.
So whereas a Gilbane, you're not getting Mr. Gilbane.
Right.
You're not getting them. So the tribal entities I found, chat, when I started off, and I've had my ups and downs of business, but I've always found that they've supported me. They've given me a chance. They will give you a chance even without bonding. If you could come in and do high quality work and you know your stuff, they will give you a shot.
That's cool.
And by the way, because they get a lot of these small business contracts, you don't have to worry about the whole competing and the bidding. They've already did all that. They're just looking for good quality contractors.
Eric, I could talk to you basically about anything all day. I found. I love your
read
style, my friend. I love your
Barbara's
style.
quote. Read Barbara's quote at the top.
What's Barbara's quote?
Read it.
You got to say.
And the natives do not have to compete. They just are awarded tax orders based on their status.
Task orders based on their status.
That's right, baby. That's right.
She also said that
so there's money there.
10 days or less on some of the contracts actually give a 10%.
Thank you. Discount. See their chat. Barbara knows her stuff. She's
like this, Barbara.
But again, I like when people are there. This is what I'm saying. These are why I said research the industry. If you don't know, you should dig into this stuff and learn.
Man, so many places to add value, so many places to make successful business decisions, so many places to make money. I love it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in real quick. So Justine had a couple of things. We might have already answered it, but she said, is there a way to find out what construction projects are happening? And, she was thinking, is cold calling still a bad avenue to like break into that?
No, I love cold calling. But I would say it's even better than cold calling. It's just go to the site visits. Like if you are in Maryland, right? There's right now, I know this because one of my clients is on the Andrews Air Force Base, MAC. You know where Andrews Air Force Base is, Stacey? Of course. Go down. There's site visits every week, right? Put your name on the list, go to a site visit, meet all the contractors. You don't need to cold call. They're all there. Just go meet them. Take your business cards, go shake hands. Join Sammy. Sammy has, when I was in Sammy at Space Coast, we're at the Kennedy Space Center, which is now called Space Center or something now. Sammy had monthly luncheons where all the contractors were in the room and we got a chance to introduce ourselves. We got a chance to stand in front of a room and present ourselves to everybody. Like Sammy is like $200 a year, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have, by the way, I don't own Sammy. It's a membership association. I have no affiliation, but the easiest deals I've ever did came out of Sammy. Like this is what this group does. They were invented to help shore up the American industrial base. Like they were invented to help us back in the 50s and 30s when we needed to build roads and like that's why these people were created. We're not even utilizing the resources that are around us. I don't have anything to sell you.
Going to have a separate conversation about consulting for the federal government. I'd love to learn more about that too, Eric.
Sure. Be happy to do it.
So this has been fantastic. Tons of engagement from the audience, and we really appreciate your dynamic presence on the show. This has been a lot of fun. Eric, I hope you wouldn't mind coming back and hanging out with us again sometime in the future.
Hey, we're just getting started. I haven't touched on like a bunch of things. But
I know.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to the website. I'm looking. I'm probably signing up for Sammy. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm signing up.
Let me say something else. GSA, General Service. Everybody heard of GSA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So GSA, they're the largest manager of real estate in our country, right? All the federal courthouses,
right?
Stuff. They're looking for innovative solutions, right? To do construction using, right, saving energy, reducing carbon emissions. So if you have any type of solutions that you can offer, they're begging people to come and bring them to the forefront. And there's pathways that you could skip the line. Let me say this as another thing. I got to say this. At the federal arena, they only bid out about 50% of the contracts. The rest of the contracts are like what Barbara said. They're not bid. 90% of my contracts, I don't bid. I negotiate.
Got it.
You don't, so when we look at that in the stats out there, right? If you have a solution, if if I own a concrete plant today, Chad, I would totally change it over to low carbon. I would go to the Corps of Engineers. I would go to GSA and say, I've got a low carbon concrete solution. They would sign you up for a 10-year contract.
So there's an opportunity right here, right now.
You could probably do the rest of their buildings until. Think about what is our climate initiatives. When is it projected out? 2030.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is not going away. Doesn't matter who changes office. Doesn't matter who wins the election. These are things that, I mean, we're going to be doing until the cows come home. And so if you want to print money, then look at,
look, if you want to print money, you can do this. If you don't, then that's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm not knocking, again, commercial, real estate, Class A office buildings. That's great. Sure. But I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're having a problem with some of the office spaces around the country, San Francisco,
I've
Maryland, New York. I've heard. I'm not sure. I read the feed.
This whole work from home thing that
happened. But I've heard that. But the government, meanwhile, if you guys look, and again, some of the stuff may be controversial to some people, so I get it. But if you look at BlackRock and some of these groups that we all talk about, they're setting up the Ukraine Reconstruction Fund. Somebody's got to go back and build Ukraine. It's going to be. Your tax dollar is going to be involved anyway, so you might as well be a part to get some of it back. I'm a guilt guy, Chad. I'm going to guilt people until I'm going to guilt people until the cows come home. So
yeah, you lean into that. I'm leaning
into that. I have to. You know what? You ever heard the term that fear of loss is a greater motivator than opportunity to gain?
100%.
I can't tell people, oh, there's billions of dollars. That doesn't excite people.
Right. Now you got to tell them how much money they're already giving away and that they have a chance to go get.
Mm-hmm.
Look up, do me a favor, chat. When you guys Google the Virgin Islands unspent money. Yeah. Anyone who's listening to this, Google Virgin Islands unspent money right now. Allocated, Stacy, sitting there. They're about to pull the funds because they haven't spent it. It's all construction. It's billions of dollars sitting there. They can't figure out how to use it.
Crazy.
It's amazing.
Just Google it. And we're sitting here worried about they're not building more affordable. They're not building housing, and this is not going. And so let me say this. I don't want to get you guys. The reason why I got into this, I get excited, guys.
I can tell you're on fire, man.
I get excited. Listen, I used to bang on the desk, and people say, "Eric, stop banging on the desk," because that's another reason I changed my mic, Chad. I used to bang on the desk, and it would vibrate to my other mic. So this mic doesn't do that. But when I first started into this, it was when the market crashed in 2008, the recession, 2007.
Yep.
One of my really good friends, his best friend committed suicide. He was a concrete guy. He did a lot of school board work. When the market crashed, all the work dried up. He lost his business and he committed suicide. So if he knew about the opportunities in the federal government, he could have just transitioned his business to that. He was doing millions of dollars a year. So that's why this is close to me, because there's somebody else out there. When this market changes and they can't do building this kind of other projects, I don't want them to not think that there's other options out there.
No, I love it. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, absolutely. It's personal, man.
Right. So I will never forget that scenario, and it plays in my head that if he only knew what other opportunities existed, right, then he could have just taken his business and went over here and applied, taking all the same skills and tools. And he had equipment, he had all this stuff and no work. So,
yep.
This
is great. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I do want to ask, where can, I believe you mentioned that you have an upcoming live stream. I want to say February 12th. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Let me get the date. So let me not mess it up, the date. Yes, I have an upcoming live stream. I got to pull it up real quick, guys. Hold on. I don't keep my own calendar. So.
And you also said you're on YouTube too, right?
YouTube. Yeah. Just follow me on YouTube. Okay. So February the 12th, the day after Super Bowl, we have a live stream at 7 p.m. It should be up today. You can reminder where we're going to be interviewing the Department of Energy, talking about specifically opportunities to do business with the Department of Energy. Think about this. We're going to have a federal agency do a live stream on YouTube on my channel. This is the first time ever. By the way, I have a big announcement also to make that same day. I'll tell you guys offline, but I'll tell everybody on that line. So awesome. The Department of Energy is going to get on there talking about all their new programs and their monies, and the fact that they don't even have enough people to put out. Another problem the government has, they don't have enough bodies to put out these contracts fast enough because the baby boomers are retiring. Nobody wants to work for the government. And so they have more money than they have people to even put the stuff out fast enough.
Absolutely.
So it's not that they want to make these things bundled and bigger, but when you have $100 billion to put out to the streets, you can't give it out in dollar chunks.
Yep.
So I'm just, I just come to spread the good news about working with the government. I think they do so many great things. They get a lot of flack. Forget about Congress. Don't fall into the news trap and the news cycle. Let's put that stuff aside. Let's put all the other things aside. We've got a lot of bad things in our country, but we're doing a lot of things right too. So
we agree. We agree. It's all what you focus on, right?
Yeah.
If you want to find the negative, it's there. If you want to find the positive, it's there.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you helping us to focus on the positive today and helping us to focus on opportunities to get some of those tax dollars back. I think I love that message. Thank you again. Stacey, anything before we let Eric go?
No, it was a pleasure to have you. And I hope people check out your YouTube, and I'm looking forward to learning more in your upcoming event. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Keep doing what you do, man. And keep doing it how you're doing it. I love your style.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
See you, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks. See you guys. See everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
All right, cool. Let's wrap up here, Stacey. Before we do, I want to say thank you to two other sponsors. First is Sandy Spring Bank. Sandy Spring Bank is my bank, the bank of so many of our construction clients, and they really do treat your business kind of like they're your business partner, helping you to figure out how to get where you're trying to go. So when something like increasing bonding capacity would be a conversation to have with your Sandy Spring Bank representative, and they'd be a partner for you to help to make that happen. And then lastly is Marsh McLennan Agency. Speaking of bonding, when you want as a contractor to secure the maximum bonding capacity, you need somebody who's going to go to work for you. And I can speak personally to their ability and willingness to do whatever it takes to dig in and help their contractor clients to secure bonding capacity, to overcome issues with their bonds, and can't say enough positive things about Marsh McLennan Agency. And thank you for being a sponsor. So Stacey, next week we have Mike Henderson, who, this should be another really fun and dynamic show. Can't wait for that conversation. Mike Henderson and I and a few other people in Baltimore have actually been working on a kind of incubator for the minority contracting community, figuring out how we can pull all of these resources to help minority contractors to become really well-run, large, mid-size and large businesses if they want. Right. If they want to take that leap, and Mike's going to update us on the status of that and talk about how people can get involved on every side of that issue. So I'm really looking forward to that discussion. Stacey, what else haven't I mentioned that we should talk about before we sign off?
If you want to get a recap of today's episode, there was a ton of great resources that Eric also shot out. Just make sure you subscribe to our e-newsletter, and you can do that by emailing me at Stacey, STACEYH at steeltocom.com, and we'll do the weekly recap with those resources for you.
That's awesome. And you can also visit the morninghuddleconstructionshow.com, and that will steer you to all the different places where you can download and subscribe and follow what we're up to here. And I got to tell you, I'm feeling a lot of momentum. Thank you so much for your support of the show. Do me a favor and tell a friend. I'd really appreciate Stacey and I are trying our best to add value and help to bring positive change to the construction community. And every voice helps. So thank you for those of you who have been helping.
Yeah.
All right, Stacey, we'll see you next week. This has been fun. So this microphone might be my new best friend.
I like it. But now I'm going to have to get one.
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. And this is, it's not, it wasn't cheap, but it was, I think, worth it.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. See ya.
See ya.